This isn't even like me giving my opinion. This is just me breaking down the situation as I see it. So maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, OG Cuicide, who is AD's homie, big homie, if you will, and that's how I know him, is because he used to come through the office a good amount, like just to kick it with AD or whatever. I do an interview with him. Very, very good interview. Insanely sad. You know, he's like the adoption stuff. He tried to, so crazy interview. Like one of the craziest ones I ever did. After we get done the interview, he says that he wants to get into doing YouTube. He wants to talk to people. He wants to do content. I told him that the spot that we were in at that time would not be a good fit for that because we didn't have enough room, but that we were trying to upgrade, and that once we got into a new spot, if we had additional studio time, that we would be happy to let him use the space. Once we get into a new space, we said, okay, you can use it. I did this for two reasons. One, because I was moved by his interview. Two, because AD, someone that I cared about / still care about in some sort of hypothetical alternate reality. So we let him use the space, and that was fine. You know, he did a bunch of interviews for like the last 8 or 9 months, if I'm not mistaken. Mostly sitting down with different people from the No Jumper universe, brought in some other people from his own universe, that sort of thing. And it was fine. To be honest, the channel never got enough views for the channel to be monetized, you know? Because I think like that was part of what I told him is I was like, well, I'm not going to put your stuff on the main channel, or actually I told him I would put like the first 5 episodes on the main channel to sort of get the ball rolling for you. And that then we'll start a channel and we'll help you run it and stuff. And if we can get it monetized, we'll split the revenue. That being said, it never got to the point where we could even monetize it. So no money was ever earned by this channel, right? So fast forward to, and just for the record, I consider this to be probably one of the most selfless things that I've ever done as a content creator. I've never just like, you know, I've given people shows on my channel that earn money for the channel, right? But I've never just like given somebody, you know, free studio time, my employees' time, my editor's time, all this thing, like all these different things that realistically, if I had to guess, including like the employee time, the studio time, I mean, this is like, we're talking $15,000 worth of like time and employee time and studio time, you know, like just renting a studio space, $100 an hour, $150 an hour, I think is pretty standard to rent a studio space. Probably not 100, probably more than 100. Anyway, we let him do that for like 8-9 months. As I said, it wasn't getting monetized. Episodes are averaging about 500 views. So my suspicions were kind of confirmed that the content would not have done well on the No Jumper channel. But again, you know, he was always a cool guy to us and stuff. So we just kind of, we're letting him rock, letting him use the studio on our downtime. And then there was like 2 little awkward things over the course of the past couple months. There was one day where I was doing interviews. I had like 2 interviews lined up, and they ended up both going a little late. So I was like 2 hours behind, you know? So like if the interviews were supposed to be done at 4, they didn't get done till 6. OG Cuicide was there. He was waiting. He was supposed to interview somebody. And he didn't say anything to me, but I could kind of like feel the vibe. And then I guess he said some stuff to some of the other employees that was a little weird. But I mean, let's be real. If you're getting free studio time just out of the goodness of our heart, and I'm in here doing interviews that are going to get, you know, hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of views, these are the things that literally pay the employees, keep the lights on. That's a different thing. That's, you know, you got to respect that. You can't think that your interview is just going to start on time when I'm doing interviews that realistically are paying the bills and they're going late. Okay, that's obvious. So I wasn't really feeling that. Felt like that was a little awkward. And then the other thing was that he asked me to borrow money. And that was awkward to me, to be honest. I left him on red, which I'm not totally proud of because, you know, it would have been a little bit more mannish to respond and just be like, nah, I don't do that. Because, I mean, of all the homies I've had over the years, especially people who work with me, especially if you work with me. When it comes to letting people borrow money, I really don't like it, because if you work for me and I'm letting you borrow money, I just feel like it puts us in kind of a weird spot where I don't want to be bugging you, and I don't want, and to be honest, like a lot of times with talent and stuff, it's kind of like, listen, if they need to borrow money here and there, you let them borrow money once, and then you just, that's good, because then you don't really have to do it again. Or if they ask you again, it's like, well, bro, I already let you borrow money, so it's kind of whatever. But either way, when they ask me that, I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, well, I'm already letting you use the fucking studio space and all this shit. I feel like that would be weird. Anyway, so that was already stewing around in my head. And then I hear from some other people that he was also asking them in the office. And that to me is even worse, because it's like asking to borrow money in the workplace is just, to me, it's not good. You're putting the people who work for me in an awkward situation where maybe they're going to feel like pressured, or like they have to do it or whatever. So a couple of weeks ago, I told Josh, I said, hey, Josh, I think it's time. You should probably tell OG Cuicide that we got to wrap it up. Can't record here anymore. We just have way more stuff being recorded. It was becoming more and more difficult to find slots in which he could do his thing. And we've also just kind of accepted, after letting him use the studio for 9 months, that this was not going to turn a profit. Because, hypothetically, let's say it even made $2,000 a month and we're splitting that. Well, the $1,000 a month, which is nothing to a business the size of No Jumper, it at least would like cover the studio time, or it would begin to cover the cost of the employees that we've had cutting stuff up for you and everything. Because, I mean, keep in mind, like, we were having our employees create TikToks for them, edit the photos, edit the podcast, upload it, create thumbnails, all this stuff that, like, realistically, as I say it now, I'm like, holy shit, that is a lot of fucking work and a lot of goodwill. Just like probably one of the nicest things I've ever done for somebody who's trying to get a YouTube channel off the ground. So a couple weeks ago, Josh tells Cuicide that it's not happening anymore and he's going to have to find somewhere else to record. Realistically, probably shouldn't be that big a deal, right? Because, I mean, how many people do we know with podcasts? I mean, it seems like almost anyone can figure this out, either rent a space or buy some mics and set up a space. Josh told me that he was not thrilled, that he kind of didn't seem stoked. Okay. And then I see, but he had a couple more episodes he wanted to release and everything, so he released those. And then the other day I see it in the calendar that there's a OG Cuicide live stream. And I actually said to Josh, I'm like, you think that's a safe move? He's on the way out the door. We're going to put him on live stream. He can say whatever he wants. Not that there's anything like, in particular that he would be able to say, or that, we were worried about him saying, but I was just like, you sure that's a good idea? Josh told me, he gave me his word that he wasn't going to talk any shit or anything. Okay. So then this is the funny thing is, you guys have probably all seen the video that he put out. I have not seen it. It was like 25 minutes. I'm like, I'm not watching this shit. But he put out a video where I guess he threatened to beat me with a chair or something. I don't know. As soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm not watching this shit. But I guess he just, in general, just didn't really seem like he was thankful or appreciative of the fact that we allowed him to use the spot for a ton of time and, let him hang out with everybody, helped him get connections with different people. I know some of the interviews, the bigger name interviews they had on his channel were because Laura helped connect him to certain people or reached out to people on his behalf, everything like that. So yeah, that's why, like, earlier today I was thinking about it and I put the quote, what is it? No good deed shall go unpunished. Because I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about how so many times as a content creator, I've basically just like given people opportunities, people who are not really in a position where they had a lot of opportunities coming in. And somehow whenever I do that, bad things always come from it. I mean, and this goes back to like the very, very beginning of my business career or whatever. Like, I remember there was a shoe company that this guy I know owned, And he told me, he goes like, you got to be really careful who you do something nice for. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he pointed out that, that whenever he would give somebody free shoes, he would give somebody 2-3 pairs of free shoes, that then at some point they would become upset because they would not end up being pro on his company. Like the average BMX dude, skater, pro guy, somebody who wants to be pro, you get a couple of free pairs of shoes, you're thinking in your head like, oh, I'm going to start getting paid by this brand one day or whatever. And, he would always have the problem that he would give somebody 3 pairs of free shoes, and then when they decided to leave and they wanted to go start buying some different shoes or they get sponsored by a different brand, they would always throw some shade on the way out. They would always like kind of hate or like act like he was sort of fucked up or whatever. And it's just this weird, consistent thing. And obviously, anybody who's watching this, you're probably thinking, well, Adam, that sounds a lot like the guys who left your channel earlier this year. You read my mind. Yeah. Whenever you do something nice for somebody, once they start to realize that they've reached the peak of how much nice stuff you're going to do for them, usually they just find a way to sort of like paint the situation as if actually you didn't really do shit for them at all. So I guess I'm not surprised. But I guess I was surprised to hear him call into someone else's stream. Well, again, I didn't hear this. I just read the title on Reddit. So if I'm confused or anything, let me know. But people basically saying that, or he said that he just didn't receive enough promotion. So, aside from just having my editors cut up the podcast, create the thumbnails, create the TikToks, create the reels, we also were posting a bunch of the clips on the Clips channel. We did that for a while. I don't know when the last time we did that was, mostly because his guests have just been smaller, so we haven't really had that much of a reason to post too many of those clips on the Clips channel. But we were posting the reels from time to time, around that same time. We haven't done that for a few months. And we would also post the photo of him and the guest on the community tab on the YouTube every time he did an interview. 4.7 million subscribers. That seems like kind of a big deal. And I instructed one of the employees who helps me run my Instagram and my TikTok, shocker, not everything that is posted on the story on my account is posted by me. Sometimes I have people helping me out. All the time I have people helping me out just because it's too much work. But they would post about all of his interviews on my story. My Instagram story usually averages like 50 to 100,000 viewers. My Snapchat story usually has like 500,000 viewers. So that's us putting you in front of 600,000 people. And then the community tab, that's another 4.7 million people that might potentially see it. So I guess my question is, how were we not giving you enough promo? I don't know. That kind of blew my mind when I heard that. I was like, okay, this shit is wild. You got to be really, really careful who you do something nice for in this world these days. So, yeah. Certainly when it comes to podcast hosts and everything, there's probably 1 million people listening to this right now. Like, why did you do that for him and not me? Or why can I find someone to do that for me? I mean, for me, putting myself into the shoes of a beginner content creator or whatever, yeah, you hit the lotto if you get somebody who's going to give you free studio time, free editing, free help with publicists, and promote you. So, yeah. No good deed shall go unpunished. But I have some good news, which is that despite everything that I have gone through this year, my heart has not turned cold. I actually had a good friend of mine reach out to me and say, when he saw me post that quote, he said, the challenge in life is to not let the ungratefulness of the people who snake you turn your heart cold. He probably phrased it a bit better than that. But I say all that to just say that even though quite often, even when I give people interviews, some percentage of the time when I give people interviews, they basically do some fuck shit afterwards and diss me or whatever. And that's fine, because it's just how the game goes. That's how the cookie crumbles, is that maybe if 2% or 5% of the people I interview end up going to be haters and talking shit, that's okay. But that's just me doing an interview. With the suicide thing, I was a little let down because I just felt like I had done so much for you and didn't ask anything of you. I just look, I just came into your life, did a ton of positive stuff for you. And then once I let you know that it just realistically wasn't going to keep happening because it just didn't seem like there was a future in it for us, we get disrespected on the way out. So I guess I just say all this to warn people out there. Be careful who you do something nice for. And also, if you're in that position, if somebody ends up doing you a big ass favor or like just helping you out a shitload along the way, and then at some point it becomes like, oh, maybe they're done helping me out. Maybe they've kind of maxed out the amount of help that they're going to give me. You should not take that as an invitation to shit on them on the way out. Loyalty means that you show love even once they've kind of reached their limit in terms of how much they're going to help you out. So yeah, I say all that just so that I don't have to talk about this on Tuesday for the No Jumper show, which will be premiering at 6 p.m. Like always, I'm going to keep this short. I could go way longer. From what I've seen on the comments on the Reddit and on YouTube and everything, it seems like everybody already agrees with me or understands. But I just wanted to flesh things out so you guys could really understand and so we could kind of put a cap on this whole little saga. So thank you very much to everybody who watched this.